The other day, I made a few comments about Russia, and the comments section went wild with people saying that I'm relying on mainstream media, which is extraordinary given the fact that I was quoting a Ukrainian source saying that Putin has entered into negotiations with a senior former deputy who has been advising Putin against continuing this war. And, and on the basis of that, I was saying that there was a movement within the Kremlin looking for a way out. And I think that's an opportunity that should be taken. I also said that there was a rise in hostility to the war and a preparedness to be vocal about it across Russia. And again, I was told I was relying on mainstream media. Not so, but it is interesting how mainstream media has caught up with this. So today there's an article in The Guardian talking about female-led movements that are challenging the official narrative that mobilized troops are required for war against Ukraine. And there's a good deal of coverage given to the protests by the wives and mothers of the Russian men who were conscripted in September 2022 and the threat of new conscription. The Guardian quotes a person called Maria Andreeva, who is one of the unofficial leaders of a newly emerging grassroots movement that has been gaining momentum in Russia in the past few weeks. But over all this, I'd also talked about the story of Ekaterina Duntsova. Now, Duntsova was told by the Electoral Commission that she could not register to be on the list at the moment for standing as a presidential candidate because there were a number of mistakes, errors made by the members of her voters committee that contained errors. And, quote, one of the signatures, apparently, of the committee's members resembled a cat. This is nonsensical, and the patronizing attitude of the head of the Central Election Commission, a person called Ella Pamfilova, said, Ekaterina Duntsova, you are a young woman, and you have everything ahead of you. Any minus can always be turned into a plus. Any experience can still be an experience. And she's also the person who rejected Alexei Navalny's application to run for president in the same way in 2017. So I'm afraid Ekaterina Duntsova is treading on very, very thin ice. The next stage after this is imprisonment on a trumped-up charge that will then continue to be magnified to the point where it becomes ridiculous. Meanwhile, Katerina Duntsova has called on the Yabloko party to nominate her as a presidential candidate instead. And since the voters' committee that supported her nomination cannot conduct a second nomination meeting, Duntsova has appealed to Yabloko chairman Nikolai Rybakov and the party founder Grigory Yavlinsky and other party members. Allies, Russia's presidential elections are scheduled for March the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. I'm sure none of us have any illusions about them, but we can't do nothing either. This is the last legal opportunity for citizens to demonstrate their disagreement with the policies of the current authorities, she said in her statement to the Yabloko party. She called on the party to hold a congress where they would nominate her as a presidential candidate. According to the law, a party congress must make the decision about the participation of a party candidate. Party representatives can submit documents to the Central Election Commission no later than 25 days from the date of the official publication of the decision to call elections, which means January the 1st. So there's very little time. But there is time, and the Congress would have to be attended by representatives of the party's regional branches, and in early December, Yabloko party held a Congress where they didn't announce the nomination of any presidential candidates. So that gap is there, and it could be filled. However, Yavlinsky has said that the party would not nominate Duntsova, and replying to a question from Sergei Buntman during a YouTube channel discussion, says, "Don't say nonsense. Yabloko cannot nominate Duntsova, out of the question because we don't know her," he said at the beginning of the stream. He said that the party could convene a Congress. It's not closed, but we don't need to. We don't see the purpose. We're not playing this game. And then when he went on and said, well, he doesn't know whether the party will consider the application. Maybe, but he doesn't know. And because of this, the Congress definitely can't continue. He said that the the YouTube people were interested in such funny things. But I think Duntsova is not only fighting for a potential candidacy, I think she's also fighting for her political career, and she's also potentially fighting for her freedom and her life, because we know what happens when you stand up against Mr. Putin, and it's either a cup of tea, a short journey out of a top window, or a prison cell with trumped-up charges. And personally, I'm counting the days until it's revealed that Mr. Putin is actually dead. But, that's my personal opinion. I think he died long ago. I think he died in October. And what we're looking at is the shadow of a corpse, the echo of a blast of air, not necessarily from a vocal orifice. And Mr. Putin's days are over. It's just a matter of the rest of Russia and the rest of the Kremlin recognizing that. And the problem is what comes next. And I certainly don't see that as a positive at all at the moment. So, and I'm sorry if people think that I'm quoting mainstream media. Today I am. No, not entirely. But today I am mostly quoting bits from The Guardian, and bits and pieces which I picked up from Russian sources. But yesterday I was not.